This is Iris Martinez, an interviewer for the Iowa State University Special Collections and University Archives Voices of a Pandemic Oral History Project. Today is Tuesday, April 20th, 2021. I am interviewing Diego Rodriguez from Des Moines, Iowa, while I am in Ames, Iowa. Please know, Diego, that this interview will be placed in the Iowa State University libraries and shared with the Voces Oral History Center at the University of Texas at Austin. If there's anything you do not wish to answer or talk about, I will honor your wishes. Also, if there's something you want to talk about, please bring it up and we'll talk about it. Because we're not conducting this interview in person, I need to record your consenting. So I'll ask you a series of 5 questions. Please say yes, I agree, or no, I do not agree after each one. There are 2 questions we need to make sure you agree to before we go on. Voces wishes to archive your interview along with any other photographs and other documentation at the Benson Library at UT Austin. We will retain copyright of the interview and any other materials you donate to Voces. So, number 1, do you give Voces consent to archive your interview and your materials at the Benson Library?
Yes, I do.
Number 2, do you grant Voces copyright over the interview and any material you provide?
Yes, I agree.
Okay. And number 3, do you agree to allow us to post this interview on the internet where it may be viewed by people around the world?
Yes, I do.
All right. We have many questions in the pre-interview form that we have already filled out. We use that information from the pre-interview form to help in research. The entire form is kept in a secure Voices server before we send it to the Benson Library. We would have stripped out any contact information about yourself or family members. So that will not be a part of your public file. Your public file will only be accessible at the Benson Library. Do you wish for us to share the rest of your interview with your public file available to researchers at the Benson Library?
Yes, I do.
All right. And the last question, on occasion, Voces receives requests from journalists who wish to contact our interview subjects. We only deal with legitimate news outlets. Do you give consent for us to share your phone number or your email with journalists?
Yes, I do.
Awesome. Okay, so then we'll start right into the interview. So again, we're just gonna have like a basic year of how this year went for you. So by starting off, um, how can you tell me a little bit about your experience with COVID-19?
Yes, so for us, COVID-19 really took place around this time in March, or maybe a month before. March 12th was our last night, I believe. Might be wrong. Our last night being open for service, and we did a big night where it was a huge sellout, um, full house, and we didn't really expect it to be so drastic the day after. So that was a Saturday, and then the Monday we were completely shut down. Des Moines, the governor of Iowa, shut down all restaurants, and after that we really just started to shift gears. Um, we've been shut down on and off since then. Uh, we've been able to reopen finally now, but um, that's my experience so far.
Okay, just for clarification, you are a chef at a restaurant, correct?
Yes, I am. Yep, I'm an executive chef at Proof Restaurant on downtown Des Moines, Iowa.
Awesome. Okay, and how did you first learn about COVID-19?
Um, Probably in January, my two of my two bosses were already starting to brief us and say this is making its way into the United States. We really need to be ready for it. What are we going to do? And I really just said, let's not worry about it. Much like everyone else, I thought that perhaps it wasn't going to make its way here and that it wasn't going to be this huge dilemma. But obviously, after a couple of nights of talking about it, it was just I was completely wrong, and so was a lot of the world. Um, the only way we could really find out about it was just following CDC guidelines and checking the news every day. That's it.
Yeah, I didn't believe it as well when it started coming out. I was like, this is gonna be like another Ebola thing or something.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, so what was your like initial reaction to the information about COVID?
I thought, well, first of all, I don't I definitely take everything seriously, and especially when it comes to um, what it means to shut down restaurants and businesses and anyone who's not a first responder. Um, but my initial response to it was I felt like it was I feel like the government was being selfish by shutting us down. I don't think they um, took into consideration what really goes into keeping restaurants open and what it provides to communities and business owners having to keep the doors open, right? Pay the rent bill, light, all utilities, but have no income come in. It really felt like a slap in the face, but only because of the lack of aid that we got right before. I really think that there was no aid up until midsummer last year, and that was my initial reaction. Just how are we gonna how are we gonna survive this? And we really need some aid. Um, I was really upset. That's the best way to put it.
Yeah, I could definitely see that. For like non-essential workers, it was probably way harder.
Yep.
Um, so at what point and did you realize that it was serious? I know you said that you took it serious, but or did you like did you have like a certain like click moment where you were like, all right, this is pretty serious?
I think I want to say that I took it serious right away, but when we started seeing Chicago, New York, and California completely shut down, you didn't no restaurants open at all. Um, you were seeing those overhead pictures of drones from traffic in LA, no traffic at all. It looked apocalyptic, really, and that's when I started to realize that it was pretty serious. As a matter of fact, I probably didn't buy a fabric mask until a couple months after. So I think once I started buying fabric masks, um, is when I was like, oh, this is not going to go away. And something that all of my coworkers and I talked about, we just kept using the little disposable ones, and I finally realized that it ain't going to go away, and we need to, um, I've always been respectful, and I think everyone that works in this restaurant proof is respectful of others and wears their mask, but um, that's a different story.
Yeah, it's such a real weird world to go out to. Still, I still think like just seeing everyone with masks on, I still look at it. Sometimes I'm just like, wow, like the way things
Yeah,
have changed.
I know. Even going to the gym, like,
Yeah.
I want to go to the gym, but then half people are wearing masks, the other half are not. Even at grocery stores, still shocks me when no one's wearing masks.
Yeah. So, let's talk about some daily impacts. How has COVID impacted you or your family members on the daily or your neighbors?
On a daily basis, it completely changed my schedule, my restaurant schedule. We can talk about that first. I'm salaried, as well as Megan, who's our pastry chef and also my girlfriend. She and I guess you could say, had a better schedule than usual. But just because we weren't working the same amount of long hours, we were still working on planning what's the new concept you have to do, how we're going to get income coming in. But on a day-to-day basis, we had to reschedule when we were going to go get groceries, at least from my house. I definitely didn't, usually you plan on weekends, right? Weekends are fun, and after working long shifts, like all you want to do is maybe head to a bar and have a drink, and that's just not happening. So you get into that habit um, of not doing anything for weeks on out, and it gets pretty depressing. Um, when it comes to my family, my mother was getting her hours severely cut, and she took the initiative to just become self-employed and start her own business. So you could say it was a good opportunity, but at the same time, it's not a good idea to open a business during COVID. Sure, for most people that want to open a restaurant, rent could be low, but then it would spike up again once things clear off. But a cutting of hours, uh, lack of morale that COVID takes on you, and really just not really being able to plan things. I think working in restaurants, we're very organized, and not being able to plan months ahead were really uh, hurt us, hurt us a lot.
That makes sense. Um, so How's it going out into the world during COVID-19 different from pre-COVID? Like, how, if at all, has COVID impacted your ability to gather with your family or your friends or for important events?
I think that's a good question because, you, for instance, you take when Thanksgiving happened, right? You had uh, news outlets and CDC saying, don't meet with your families. Like Thanksgiving this year is not the same. Don't go. Uh, it's like it's really odd and a hard thing to say to tell families don't get together on the day that you're actually together. I mean, you're talking people from coming out of state, perhaps even the country, and being an immigrant. Thanksgiving's huge. Not necessarily because we celebrate it as what Thanksgiving is, but it's a day that we all get together at my mother's house, and it's hard because I feel like a lot of immigrant families didn't take it as serious as others should, and they were like, "No, no, mijo, come to my house, though. It's okay," and it's really not okay. So we decided not to. We didn't do a big Thanksgiving, but I know a lot of people definitely did. Feeling some sort of guilt by having friends come over to my house, knowing that they should be at home, um, definitely makes you feel a bit guilty when you start seeing, deaths increase and infections increase. So it was a lot of give and takes.
For sure. Yeah, there was a lot of guilt this year for everything that we did that was just normal to us before.
I know, right?
Um, so you said that you like rarely try to hang out with people, but if you did, who would you interact with the most?
Um, I think I have a pretty I have a good amount of friends, but a lot of them live out of state. The hard thing was at the time I lived with two other roommates, so it's okay because there's only three of us at the house. But you're talking one roommate has a girlfriend, the other one has a girlfriend as well. They all have friends, so everyone would still commute and come to our house, and I would just be trying to lock myself up in my room because if I get sick, this restaurant shuts down, and I really try to keep it to a minimal. Um, Close contact with family being just about it, and my roommates, my girlfriend Megan. But I guess that's just the way I saw it. If the max I'm seeing is 10 people, well, shoot, if one of us gets sick, then all 10 of us are going to get sick. But at least I know that just us will get sick. But at the same time, all it takes is one of those people to go get groceries and spread it, and it's just you really couldn't win. There's no way to win or go right way with this.
It was like do or die at one point.
Yeah,
Um,
a lot of DoorDash.
yes. So how has your family changed when you take how has your family changed what you take with you when you leave your home?
What do you mean by that?
Like, did you guys have like a new routine of when you guys would leave the house? If when you left the house, like I don't know, like masks, like hand sanitizer,
Oh, yeah,
stuff.
yeah. I feel like after someone, I would tell my mom, hey, I'm not gonna come over this Sunday because I've been exposed to COVID. I'm getting a test, blah blah blah. And I would show up and everyone's wearing a mask. I'm wearing a mask, and it's like, well, I'm gonna go home because this is weird. It doesn't really make sense for us to be together. I can't hug you. And my mother's also, I mean, she's not old at all, but she is at that age where where they said that they could be at the most risk. So of course she took it very seriously and hand sanitizer nonstop. I think my hands are destroyed from all the hand sanitizer, and that was mainly it. Just um, hand sanitizer, mask. But at the end of the day, if I showed up and everyone's wearing a mask, I just left.
Yeah, it just made
Just
no
not.
point. Might as well just
Yeah,
Zoom call.
yeah, exactly.
Um, so how do you feel about wearing masks? Like, what's your personal take on them?
I think that it's no big deal at all. I think wearing a mask is um, like anything you see online is being respectful not only for yourself but to others and to the rest of the world and showing that you care and are not a selfish human. And the only back, um, the only bad thing I think about masks is at my job because in the kitchen where it's super hot, and I wear glasses. And a lot of people wear glasses too. The mask will fog up your glasses. Okay, then you get a different mask that doesn't fog up your glasses. But then the main thing is in the kitchen where it's fast paced and it's a lot of dangerous equipment around. If I'm not be able to communicate what I'm saying and I have to scream, it's just the lack of communication is really what made it really hard. It still makes it really hard. Um, it's almost dangerous for someone not to be able to hear what I'm saying when I'm trying to pass them something hot. But at the end of the day, when you think about it, these are not big issues.
Yeah.
They're not big issues. I think, or not I think, but I know that most of my staff here at Proof is almost all vaccinated, so we feel good about that. And that's really it.
Yeah, it's just those slight inconveniences that we can get over.
Yeah, exactly. It's not the end of the world.
Yep.
Not anymore.
Not anymore. No, we gotta get over it at one point.
Mhm.
Um, so let's talk a little bit about like your community and like the education. So, um, how has COVID like changed the way your siblings or you or your family and your community receive education? Do you know?
Um, I think I know somewhat about it because the only people that are still in school that I know, or I mean, not that I know, but close to my family, are my niece and nephew, Luca and Azul, which are my sister Laura's kids, and my brother-in-law Abner. Um, she had to homeschool them. I believe they might still be homeschooled. Actually, no, they went back to school recently. But for families that have working schedules where both parents work a full time and the kids are expected to be at school and then babysitters, it completely puts a rut in your schedule. And I think I think it's really not fair for kids to not get in-person communication, um, teachers to be right next to them while they're doing work, and in general, just not being in an organized system for school. Because when I came to the United States, I I definitely felt overwhelmed by how big schools were and everything. But once I started getting into it and understanding how everything worked out, I wouldn't have probably done as I don't want to say well, but I definitely did well in school because of teachers being there, me asking questions, and then for kids to build that self-confidence and be comfortable with themselves, it really takes in-person interaction. It's important for kids to make friends and build relationships at an early age.
Yeah. Yep. That's how my siblings were. Once they were online, everything changed. Like
Yeah.
it just their habits changed and everything. Um, so you were talking about kind of the challenges that the kids are facing. What kind of challenges did your nieces face while they were online?
Uh, the lack of concentration. It's hard to have kids, especially at that age, 9 to 10, want to look at a screen and not do anything that's not video game related or anything else like that. Um, being working like I work from home occasionally, and I know I don't get as much work done when I'm at home than compared to here. So I couldn't imagine a kid in their pajamas working on the computer and having, distractions to the right. So I think that's the right or left. I think that's the main thing. Just distractions in the house, um, just not being able to concentrate.
That's that's for me too. Just be doing online, just being over there.
Yeah,
Um,
I bet.
so how have schools helped your community during COVID-19? Have they distributed food? Have they given technology to students?
Both, I think. Yeah, definitely. Um, I know that. I'm trying to think who was in the school. I know my niece and nephew definitely got a laptop to take home. Um, I think schools in general. Oh, I know what I'm thinking about. My girlfriend's daughter, Quinn. She's 5, and she got a laptop to take home. And teachers we're communicating a lot through email and really trying to help students any way they can with babysitting, or excuse me, help mothers with after school programs. So that's something that I think became something bigger than it ever was after school programs for kids to be in, whether it was half in person or half online, but just being able to have someone there for them.
And has your own education been disrupted as a result of COVID?
My own education,
Yes.
negative because I just work.
Okay. Let's talk about a little bit like healthcare. What kind of concerns or questions have about healthcare have emerged as a result of COVID for you?
Okay. I think now more than ever, people are starting to realize that they need healthcare
Mhm.
and insurance, health insurance. As an immigrant, that's something that we lack because of um, a lack of, I don't want to say rights, but a lack of support from government officials. Um, I've been uninsured my whole life, so as the rest of my family. Um, I think my niece and nephew are blessed that they're born in this country and have health insurance. But more than now, I think we all take care of ourselves a little better, or at least are conscious about it. I personally suffer from asthma, and this past year has been horrible because I've had to use a lot more albuterol, which is my inhaler. Allergies. I feel like allergies are. I don't know. I don't want to say allergies got worse this year because of COVID. 'Cause I don't know if that's a correlation, but it definitely did for me. Um, but in general, I think everyone became more health conscious.
Yeah, I'd hope so.
Yeah,
So as you're, uh, so are you? So you said you don't get healthcare then as a.
I do not.
Okay, so you guys have become a little more like way more conscious. Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah,
Because any mess up, it'd be like, well, what are we supposed to do now?
yeah, exactly, exactly.
So how about any mental health impacts or challenges for from COVID have you guys had as a result?
Um, I'll speak for myself personally because I don't want to say anyone else's business, but I think in the beginning of COVID, depression really occurs. Doing the same, doing the same things over and over again, right? Takeout menus and not seeing people's faces and wearing a mask when you see someone and being away from them. It takes a toll on your brain because as someone who works in a restaurant, I don't just work in a restaurant for the sake of cooking, but for the sake of taking care of people. We are in the hospitality business, and not having human interaction, and someone like me who talks a lot, it's really hard. It's really hard to just um, have all these ideas and thoughts and want to converse with people and not being able to. On top of that, you add an Iowa winter to the equation, and it's just absolutely brutal. You get the winter blues, but I, to go along with that, I think a lot of my restaurant community, we started reaching out to one another a lot more, um, asking how we're doing, kind of thing. Not more of a, usually the question is, how's business? Oh, business is great. Oh, great, great, great. I'm glad it shifted towards more of, how are you doing? You need any help? And likewise, myself and my whole staff, I was glad to send anyone to any restaurant if they needed help or really just needed someone to listen to.
I'd say that's a good thing. Like a lot of new things that we had to like a lot of things that we had to stop, but a lot of new things that have started because of COVID at the same
Yeah,
time.
definitely a lot of new opportunities.
Yeah. Um. So you talked a little bit about vaccinations, but have you been vaccinated? Or do you have any problems registering?
I've had um, up until yesterday, I had troubles actually finding an appointment that wasn't an hour away from me.
Mhm.
Um, excuse me, luckily I found one, and I'm getting vaccinated this Wednesday. Um, and the rest of my staff as well. I think it's all about communication and sending people links to certain pharmacies and Hy-Vee or whatever it may be. Sometimes you have to just know someone and say, "Hey, go to this address," and tell them you're on my list. But um, I think I was just waiting until I don't know, it was April 5th, I believe, that Biden said that everyone could get vaccinated. It wasn't just first responders or a certain criteria. So I'm just glad that I'm getting it. I'm glad that most of my staff has it.
That's great. Yeah. That's
Starting to feel a little better.
yeah, me too. So let's go into politics a little bit. How do you believe politics affected how COVID has been handled?
This is a topic that I don't know much about, but I'll give it my best shot. Um, I think that politics and running a business somehow, I mean, it does correlate. It hurt me that COVID had already been in the states, and no one was taking efforts to really tackle it. Right? You still had businesses making money, and you had people going in debt. So how does that make sense? It really doesn't. Um, you had you had shutdowns in certain states. I guess what I'm trying to say is that the federal government should have taken more of a bigger step into state government. I know they can't really do that, but to let states and governors do whatever they want when it comes to what they think is right to shut down certain areas. And, okay, well, I don't have a mask mandate. You can go to a restaurant, but it's only 50%. And then you go to California or bigger cities, and they're completely shut down. I think in general, we should have all been shut down. I think we could have moved past this a lot faster. Obviously, we're a huge country, but um, I think people being interested and having their hands in money is really what hurt us.
Yeah. I think definitely some people benefited from COVID and most
Yeah,
of us did not benefit from COVID.
yeah, exactly.
Um, so how do you think COVID affected politics here in your area or like Iowa, for example?
Um, Going back to getting shut down, I think our governor didn't take the right direction when it came to using funds for COVID aid instead of using it towards anything that's not important. Because, like you said earlier, at one point it was life or death, and it's really a drastic measure to say, but it was true. We we had no income coming in. A lot of restaurants around here didn't have income coming in. I had to lay off all my staff, front of the house, back of the house. Luckily, myself and my pastry chef were able to stay on salary, but we were here every single day, trying to make sure that things, don't go to waste and preserving stuff, whatever. But I think, I think for us, there was just always a lack of aid, a lack of support, and a lack of communication when it came to. You had rumors that, hey, we're gonna get shut down tomorrow, and you would just say it's a rumor, or whatever. But then next day, we literally got shut down, and it's a burden because you're open for 1 week, you have product in, a couple $1,000s worth of product, and you get shut down. Well, that product's gonna go to waste, and you end up losing money, and you go into these huge deficits.
Let's see, running restaurants is a lot more complicated than just, what people may think it's.
Cooking,
Yeah.
yeah.
Um, so we talked about your work a little bit, but let's get into your how the challenges that impacted you. So just give us like the rundown of like what started with your like with the restaurant and how to what who lost work or what happened.
As a result of COVID, we had to. My restaurant is a restaurant where people come in, they pay an X amount of money, and they experience something that they didn't expect was to come. They um, come here for a good experience, a great time, to create memories. And when you strip that away, then all you have is a business, right? So we had to, first of all, lay all the kitchen off because we just don't have the money coming in to pay them off. On top of that, restaurants run extremely thin margins. We have to lay off basically all the front of house. So everyone still collected unemployment, which is okay. And, there's a lot of government funds for that, government aid. But having to lay people off increases the workload for certain individuals like myself and anyone else who's salaried. So what happens is you have to take your business and flip it upside down a couple of times, right? We switched concepts. We started doing to go with um, bake and bake options. We started doing virtual online cooking classes. Um, Take home meals where once again we got on the video call and showed people how to cook. You can say that all these things were great opportunities and great business ventures, but at the end of the day, still not the same amount of money coming in, for the same amount of work that we're doing. So on a day-to-day basis, it was just changing changing things nonstop and trying to stay relevant.
It was just every second you had to make sure you were up with the new things that the public required or the public wanted.
Yeah, and really we just copied what was going around the country. We just looked at our favorite restaurants in New York and Chicago and anywhere really, and just mocked what they were doing
Yeah.
because it's all you could do.
Yeah, it's like all new to everybody. So did you guys, you did say that the amount of work compared to the work you guys were doing, because you said it was just a few people, right, in the restaurant that were
Yeah.
working. Yep. So did you have any concerns about finances?
Oh yeah, big time. We completely went to a deficit. I think without government grants and PPP funds money, which is you know a loan that you get from the government, and you have to use it toward the payroll. Certain a big percentage has to go to payroll. Without those kind of funds and grants, I don't think our restaurant would have survived, as well as everyone else in this metro area.
Yeah. I'm glad you guys survived though. You guys have pretty good
Thank you.
food. Um, so has COVID impacted your ability to financially contribute to your family, or sending money to family that does not live with you? Again, you don't have to answer any of the questions if you don't want to, if they're sensitive.
That's not sensitive. Like I said, luckily I was able to keep my salary. Still working the same amount of hours, and I think sure I kept my salary, but my family members weren't so lucky. So it was a lot of um, I'm gonna get you this time, and I don't expect you to get me back. I'm just helping you out, And if you know immigrant families, it doesn't always slide right. People don't want to take help, but it's a good thing that Venmo is a thing because you just send money on Venmo and say, I want it back.
Yeah,
Um, but luckily, like I said, being able to keep getting paid, helped me pay my rent, car bills, whatever.
that's
Um, yeah. On top of that, I think most financial companies, like credit card companies, were giving out loans, you know, for forgiveness for like 3 months of not paying your stuff and then paying X amount of interest. But I think it's pretty much all over now when it comes to that. We're slowly starting to open back up, and I think the next big issue is getting those who are unemployed to come back to work
yeah,
because it's such a that's another topic that I think is important. At a time when you were getting $600 extra for unemployment, and then your weekly benefits, you're talking someone who would usually work 40 hours a week, getting paid anywhere from 1,000 to $1,200 a week, and I mean that's a lot of money for anyone working in the restaurant industry. So how do you get these people to come back? It's a touchy topic.
yeah. That's a tricky topic for sure. Um, we did talk about a little bit in the pre-form interview. In the interview, um, you're not currently a part of the social movement that happened during COVID, like the summer of COVID, correct?
Yep. Nope, I am not.
Okay, so we'll move past those. So we did talk about this. Your perspective on going out. Could you just touch on that one more time?
On going out to eat and
No,
whatnot.
like just like yeah, going out, or like the protest when it all happened, and people were still deciding to go out. What's your perspective on that?
Um, well, the protest is one thing. I think they all were standing for something that's right and continues to be right, and change doesn't move as fast as it should in this country. I think because of politics and the way people have their interest in companies that make them a lot of money. But I don't know if this is necessarily what you're asking, but for to for us restaurant workers to go out to other restaurants during the pandemic, it wasn't more of a I'm going to go out because I want to see my friends. It was more of I want to go eat and drink at a restaurant and just support them. And then it goes back to feeling guilty because sure you're still going out, but at the end of the day, um, I rather I rather spread my money with them than see them go under. And um, it's a mutual thing because everyone was doing the same thing. At least in the downtown area.
Yeah, like all across the board, everybody was coming from the same boat, I'd say.
Exactly.
Okay, so we're down to like the last question. Is there anything you would like to share with me about your experience with COVID-19 that I haven't asked? Anything you want to put out there um, for the rest of the people that will be viewing this interview?
Um, I think I think people should. There's one thing I'd say. I think we take for granted the 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 type of life we live here in the United States, and COVID really showed people that we really can't take anything for granted. Going out to eat in restaurants, having to drink at a bar, going to your grocery store to do some window shopping and look for your favorite wine. All these kind of things are luxuries to us, and now more than ever that it's kicking back up and people are getting vaccinated, I don't think that we should necessarily stop it, but I think we should actually implement it some more. Um, during these times, you had people who opened businesses and have had businesses, and I think it's just important for us to support local and support your friends' businesses. Don't ask for a discount at your friend's location. Instead, ask how you can support.
Yeah, definitely. Okay, Diego, I want to thank you for being a part of this interview and this and helping me complete trying to figure out the Latinos' description of their experience during COVID. I think it's really important that we record any
Yes.
and all experiences. Um, and I hope your restaurant thrives with this
Thank
upcoming
you. Of
opening. And I just want to say thank you again.
course. Thank you.
Awesome. Okay, I'll see you later. Yeah.
Okay, sounds good.